What's going on? This is TJ Murphy, and welcome to another episode of Adventurous Entrepreneurs. My guest today is Rocky Lalvani. Rocky is the profit answer man. He teaches people how to ensure that they get paid and that making a profit is actually the purpose and priority of a business. As a certified profit first professional, he implements Mike Michalowicz's profit first system, which teaches how to change the traditional accounting formula of sales minus expenses equals profit to sales minus profit equals expenses. This ensures that you're paying yourself first and you're able to prioritize that growth to be able to fuel a successful business and take care of your people. Rocky started with nothing when his parents immigrated to the United States when he was only 2 years old, and his parents were in their 40s. It was their second time starting over in life as they moved here to realize the American dream. In spite of a lot of struggles and his mom passing away when Rocky was only 7, he has been able to achieve financial and life success in a truly fulfilling way. Just a few of the golden takeaways Rocky shares in this episode are leveraging the profit first method for business resilience, strategies for business success amid economic uncertainties, creating a legacy of experiences, navigating seasons of life and business, and how to align your life and business for ultimate fulfillment. So, without further ado, this is me and Rocky Lalvani. Welcome to the Adventurous Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, TJ Murphy. Since quitting my corporate 9-to-5 and starting a business while backpacking through Asia back in early 2017, I've had the privilege of learning from some incredibly adventurous entrepreneurs. Through these conversations and my own journey, I've learned that much like in life, entrepreneurship is an adventure. On this podcast, I explore the journeys of top performing leaders in their fields. These wide-ranging conversations include tactical business advice, how I built this insights, lessons in leadership, life hacks, travel stories, favorite hobbies, and insights into living a purposeful and joy-filled life. Adventures await us, so let's dive in. Hey, Rocky, welcome to Adventurous Entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much for having me, TJ. Excited to be with you today. Although it looks like you're in a much warmer place than me. I'm in a sweater, you're in a t-shirt.
Well, it's warm in this room, but it's probably like 35 degrees outside. I'm here in beautiful Bend, Oregon, where winter is in full effect. So we had a little dusting of snow last night. It's all white and pretty and cold out there, but definitely toasty warm in here. So happy about that. Excited for the conversation. Would really love to dig into so many things, but let's start with a bit of background on your journey. Can you tell us your story leading up to becoming the adventurous entrepreneur you are today?
So this thing happened in stages, right? As a kid, I was very entrepreneurial. I was always making a buck, paper route, buying and selling stuff to kids at school, buying and selling stuff to teachers at school and other people too. So I always had cash, and then I did what I was supposed to. I went to college. I had no desire to go, but this is what we were told. Got out of college and I wanted to start a business. So when I was a kid, I was actually playing around with spreadsheets. Back then it was VisiCalc. I had the, Apple's still popular, but back then my Apple II was $2,000 and it had a whopping 4K of memory. Used a black and white TV and just a different era of computers, right?
Yeah.
So throughout college, like I was helping companies with spreadsheets, and I was teaching accountants to go from paper ledgers to these electronic things. I'm like, I'm going to build a company selling this skill, but I had no idea how to do it. There were no podcasts, right? There was no Google, there was no internet, right? So I had no idea how to market and sell that idea, so I just ended up getting a job. And I did well. I was in sales, and within like a year or two, I was making more money than I knew what to do with. So I have fun. But good is the enemy of great, right? So I spent time building wealth as an employee, doing that. Eventually, had a little bit of side businesses, doing taxes. Then we got into real estate. So again, all of this was side businesses, flipping houses, rentals. And finally, I got to a point in my life where I was like, I'm working because it pays me well and I don't have to kill myself, but it's not what I love. What do I really want to do? And it went back to the numbers and the spreadsheets and looking at it. And I came across this book, Profit First. And to me, it was just shocked to realize that business owners didn't look at their financials. I was like, how do you run a business and not know your numbers? Like, isn't that why you went into business, to do business? And it was like, oh, wait a minute. They went into business to do what they loved, and accounting wasn't on the list. So all these businesses out there, while they look good and they've got seven figures in revenue, are actually struggling. And that was just like mind blowing to me. I was like, can I actually help these people with my, I have an MBA. I'm in EA, so I understand taxes. Like, I understand all the processes. When I look at a spreadsheet, it tells me a story.
Yeah.
Like, I was the only sales guy that could look at the spreadsheets and go, oh, here's the problem. This is where you need to focus your attention. You fix that and your numbers will be perfect. So I explored that. And then eventually I said, you know what? It's either now or never. I quit my nice, wonderful job and I started a business. And it took a while to get going, but here we are a few years
As it
later.
does.
Things are booming beyond what I had expected. And
Wow.
life is wonderful and I'm having fun still.
Well, the fun piece is key, but I'm curious. I'm excited to get into talking about what you're focused on today in the business. But going back to the early years, you were selling stuff to your fellow students and teachers. What were you selling, and what did you learn through that experience, especially selling to the teachers? That's what I'm most curious about.
You know, I think the paper route was the number one thing that taught me customer service,
Yeah.
because what I learned from that was people would say, hey, if you deliver my paper like this, that would be good. And so I would do that. And I started getting tips because I did what they asked.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the first lesson. The other stuff was I lived in Jersey. And what I would do is I would go into New York City and I would buy stuff wholesale, or I would buy stuff in quantity and I would split it up and sell it singly. So it could have been, I know this sounds kind of silly, but cassette tapes, right? Kind of the equivalent of an SD card. Um, if I could have a lower price than everyone else, people, and the convenience of just buying for me.
Yep.
Back then, we didn't have iPhones, but digital watches were coming out, like the credit card size calculators. A lot of digital products were just kind of coming to be. And I was able to go in and pick up these digital products for wholesale and just double the price and come back and sell it. So, you know, teacher sees a digital calculator or this or that. They're interested just as much as the kids are. Actually, one of the teachers was smart enough to go, I mean, he'd ask me questions and he understood what I was doing. He's like, wow. So he started doing it. He started buying it and going to sell to the teachers and all the other schools and places, right? Because
Yep.
he realized, wait, I can build a business out of this. There's hardly any capital. Actually, you can just pre-order, right?
Hmm.
You go, hey, who wants this? I'm going to go get them this weekend. Give me the money, right? And then I go buy them and I just deliver.
Hmm.
And I just knew I always had this knack for negotiation, for seeing the difference in kind of being able to arbitrage prices. I just assumed people understood money. Turns out most people don't, and they don't teach it in school. And to me, I grew up naturally learning this because in our family, this is just the way things were done. And I didn't realize that wasn't normal until much, much later in life.
Hmm. That's fascinating. I mean, a really amazing, like real life lesson into profit, which we're going to get into here in a moment, like understanding numbers, understanding money, and being able to, what you're saying here, like get these pre-orders. So you're not even going out of pocket. You're collecting demand, going in, understanding margins, and building some pocket change for yourself at a young age. I love that. So let's
Yeah,
bring
I
in,
always had money. Like when I was in college, I was drinking the best beer.
that's awesome. I was not. But hey, learn this some of the hard lessons that way and learn the value of money as well. So getting both perspectives could be just as valuable as having it. and click like it sounds like it did for you early on. So let's bring things forward to what you're focused on today. We're going to talk a lot about profit, and I want to get into exactly what the profit first system is here in a moment and walk through how people can implement that into their own businesses. But first, I'm curious, what inspired you to focus on helping business owners prioritize profit in the first place? And how did you discover the system? Sounds like you picked up the book. What was that aha moment that led you to take
Well,
this
so
route?
before I was focused on business owners, I was like looking around at people and going, I don't understand why there's not more millionaires. This is not difficult to do. And so I was trying to teach people how to build wealth. And I learned something, um, which is people have the lottery ticket mentality. They all want to learn how to get rich this weekend, and they'll give you lots of money on the bet of getting rich this weekend. But if I told you, look, I can make you a millionaire in 10 years, nobody wanted to invest. Right? Nobody wanted those lessons. And that was the problem that I kept hitting against. So I already had all the knowledge. What they talk about in Profit First, I was doing since I was 21 years old. Like I already knew how to manage money, how to allocate it to purposes, I've been using Quicken since the early 1990s, right? We were on DOS back then, right? Um, so this was just natural gifts of mine. And when I read the book, that's when the aha came that business owners weren't looking at their numbers. That's when it was like, oh my God, all that stuff I learned in my MBA that never made sense that people don't actually utilize. Now there's kind of a little bit more application of those skills and some of the other things. But yeah, that was it. And I was like, I already do this the way it is. And then it was the question of, well, do you want to create your own system? Or do you just want to, get certified by them, which is the easier route? I'm going to be admitted. I like to be lazy and make lots of money. I'm not Mr. Grind at 10x like that crazy guy who, not my thing.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
It is
Nothing wrong
very
with
okay.
reselling other people's stuff and making a lot of money in the process.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that you picked up this book. You already had the foundational knowledge. So you had the skills to pay the bills. You had the value to provide to business owners, which, yeah, let's be real. Most business owners don't start a business to be an accountant and understand their books. And quite honestly, that's why so many fail. But then you saw this opportunity and you ran with it. So let's dive into what exactly the profit first system is. So for someone who's unfamiliar with the book, with Mike Michalowicz, profit first system, how would you explain its basic principles and the shift from traditional accounting formulas?
So let's first talk about Mike. Mike is a serial entrepreneur. He's owned a bunch of different companies in a bunch of different markets. One of them was a forensic data company. So like they went in and they did the investigations for Enron. They would go into like celebrity divorces to look for the money, all of this stuff, right? The funny thing is, even though he had this company, well, it was more on the data side, not the accounting side. He sells the company, walks away with a massive paycheck, thinks he's the smartest business owner in the world. Within a few years, he actually lost it all. They came for the keys to the house and the car. So he's pretty much giving everything up, which kind of sent him on this soul searching journey of how did I get it so wrong? And he realized one of the things he realized was wait a minute, we've been given the wrong equation for profit. The accountant tells you sales minus expenses equals profit. Where's profit in that equation?
At the end.
At the end, it's a leftover. It's something you find out at tax time. Oh, you were profitable. Really? I didn't know that. He said, wait a minute. We're supposed to be profitable. That's what we went into business for. Why don't we do sales minus profit equals expenses? And so what you're doing is you're taking your profit first. Profit is not evil. And then you're constraining your expenses. You're living within your means for your business after you've paid yourself, after you've taken your profit, after you've paid your taxes, right? You handle all of that stuff first, and then you go, I need to run my business on this, which comes down to Parkinson's law. Your business will use up all the time and money allocated to it. So, however much money there is, your business will use it all up. However much time there is, you know, it'll all get used up. No different than when you were a kid and you had a book report to do. You had 2 weeks to do it and you waited till the last day, right? That's just life. You do the same thing in your business. I mean, let's be honest. And so that's basically what it came down to. When you start to use these universal principles and you put them together and you start allocating your money and you give it a purpose, then it all works out wonderfully.
Yes, it does. And being someone that does follow this process myself, it just fits into the mold that I like to talk about of we all get into business for a reason. Typically it's to create wealth, prosperity, but freedom most importantly. And designing your business around the outcome that you actually want to have is so critical. And it's not just the processes, the hours, the people, etc. It's also the financial side. You know, to have the freedom and the lifestyle that you want, you're going to need a certain amount of financial stability and money coming in. So having that number and knowing what it is and actually paying yourself first and building everything else around what's left. I mean, the limiting factor of having less allows you to do more with less and be more efficient. But the other side is, hey, you're actually realizing and planning for that from the outset versus all right, we didn't have a good month. We're in the red. Things aren't going so well, and now you start to spiral, and you're not in control as much. So, all that to be said, it's easy in principle. It is a very simple formula, but in practice, it can be a little harder for people to implement, especially in the beginning. So, what are like common pitfalls? If I'm somebody who's just starting a business, what are the pitfalls that people run into that you see a lot when it comes to managing cash flow and profitability?
So, first off, most businesses don't have a good accounting system. So they have no idea what money is coming in, what money is going out, what money is owed to them, what money is owed out. And so if you don't have clarity on the financial situation, you aren't making the right decision. You might look at your bank account, which is what most business owners do. Is there money in the bank? Oh my God, there's money in the bank. I can spend. Not necessarily. I mean, you might have payroll coming due. You might have a bill that your credit card bill because you went and bought a whole bunch of supplies last month. All of that stuff is coming due. But if you don't have an up-to-date accounting system, which almost no one has, nor does anyone open up their accounting system and go, where am I at in this moment? They open up their phone. They go, how much money's in the bank? And that's the way they do business. Profit First is designed for them. It's designed for people who want to open up their phone and get a real-time picture of what's my money situation. And it leverages that habit to your advantage. And that's what it basically does. The problem that people have is they got to go open up at least 5 bank accounts. So that freaks people out. B, they don't get to the bank. C, they open the bank accounts, but then they don't move the stuff around. D, the first month it doesn't work and they give up, right? Or they set their targets too high for their current business situation. Mike puts targets in the book and they start at the targets in the book. That's where you're supposed to end up, not where you begin. You begin with where you are. I don't go in the gym on the first day, and fill the bar with all the weights I can put on it, right? I start with an empty bar to get used to building a habit. It's the same thing with Profit First. Start your habit. And once you get good at it, then you can continue to add weights, add greater percentages, and start to have confidence in how the system works and also adjust your business to live essentially on a diet. And for some businesses, it takes 2 to 3 years to go from where you're at to where you want to be.
Yep, that's the reality. And being lean in the beginning is going to allow you to get there faster. So you mentioned the bank accounts, and I'm not going to have time to get into
all the details, but can you break down at a high level how the system works so people can get a sense for how they might be able to deploy this and get them intrigued to reach out and learn more?
Sure. So the beginning is the income account. All of your income goes in the income account. You don't spend out of it. And this way, when I look at my income account, I see how much money came in, right? I've got a number. And on a set rhythm, we take the money out of the income account and we put it into the other account. So a rhythm might be once a week, it might be twice a month, it might be once a month. We don't do it more than once a week. Okay. This is not meant to be cumbersome. You then take your money and then you start distributing it to your other bank accounts. The first account that we distribute to is, can you guess?
Our own?
Profit, right? First, we pay our profit. Then the next account we distribute to is owner's pay so that you always ensure that you're paid and your family at home is fed, because otherwise you're going to have problems at work. Then we put money aside for the IRS because they know how to come get it. We don't want to mess with them. And what's left over now is what goes into our operating account. And you learn to run your business on that amount. And it constrains you. You apply the 80-20 rule and you spend the 20% that gets you the 80% of the result. And you stop wasting all your money on silliness because we have a tendency to throw money at problems instead of solving them.
It's true. And in the beginning, you got to be involved and in the weeds and managing this stuff yourself. But as it goes on and you have more predictable, reliable numbers, a lot of it can just be automated, those transfers of money. Am I right?
It is. Some banks will do it. Profit First has also partnered with Relay, and Relay will create your bank accounts and do all your money movement for you automatically. So they
Wow.
do it all behind the scenes for you. They make it simple. If you're okay, using them, great. If you want to use your local bank, that's fine too. Do it the way that works for you.
So you're obviously a success story of this system, but you're also working with business owners and helping them realize and implement this goal to get to where they want to be. Can you share a success story? Anything that comes to mind of a business that implemented the profit first method and saw some transformative results from it?
So let's start with what they usually say. It's about 18 months, maybe 2 years later. The comment, if things went well, is I've never had so much money in my business. What am I supposed to do with it? Right?
Great problem to have.
Great problem to have. And we remove money from the business. I think one of our greatest success stories, I had a gentleman come to me. He was older. He'd been in business a long, long time. And he wanted the ability to retire. So he said, look, I need $500,000 in cash out of this business. Taxes covered. I said, we can do that. We set a 3-year time frame for him to be able to do this. He had a 6-figure business. Okay. So just so everything in perspective. And we started working together and then COVID hit and his business actually went up during COVID. And so then he's like, hey, um, I think, can we do 1 million? I said, yeah, we can do 1 million. And because he was doing so well, and he was just so good at following the system and making changes. And at the end of when we hit that 3-year mark, which was only last month, he's got more than $1 million, taxes covered, ready to distribute to himself. And, now he's just winding out and finishing out the business and doing that. So that's a great success story. And there are plenty more like that. Just because you make money doesn't mean you need to exit. There are many business owners who have built up and then they got hit with stuff. They got hit with a downturn in the economy. They got hit with COVID. They got hit with life. And because they had the excess reserves in their profit account, because they had all of this, A, they got an early warning signal, and B, they were able to then get through the downturn. Now, profit first is the first step of what we do. We got another 12 steps behind it. And for a lot of businesses, we can sit down today and we can look at their projected cash flow. And I can tell them, look, you're good for the next 4 to 5 months based on what's going on today. Your cash is looking good. We know when payments are coming in. You need to focus on this. And so we then help them to when the next 4 months are good, you sleep at night. Now we can actually spend our time focusing on what needs to be done next in the business to help them continue to be 4 to 6 months out so that they always know, hey, everything is thumbs up at the moment. And if some part is breaking down, we know immediately, hey, part of the system is breaking down, which means maybe we're not getting enough leads, or maybe we're not closing the leads like we used to, or something's going on, and we can start to see that early and be proactive instead of reactive. And then if we know we're going to hit a downturn, well, then we can make changes today so that 4 months from now, we're already, handling it.
Yeah. It's that proactiveness, like as a business owner, having the peace of mind to know that no matter what happens, if the worst case scenario happens, you still are covered. You're going to be in a good place. You can sleep well at night, and you're going to be able to make those adjustments with a nice war chest sitting there that can help weather the downturns that inevitably do come up for a lot of businesses. That, I think, for me is one of the biggest takeaways or the biggest value selling points of implementing the system, is just being able to have that confidence and peace of mind in it. So for any business owner that you're working with that wants to start implementing the profit first methodology, what is that first step, or what should they do today or tomorrow to get started with it?
Go open the bank accounts. Number one thing that prevents people from starting is not opening the bank accounts. And then the second step is, once your accounts are open, you have to look at your automated payments, and you have to make sure that all the incoming money is going into your income account, and all your expenses, your payroll, your credit card, everything's getting paid out of the expense account. And so just setting those two things up and getting through that is step one. And then once that's set up, then you just start by putting your money into the system and letting it go where it's supposed to go, and understand there's going to be hiccups. This is not perfect, right? And then over time, cranking up the percentages that you keep and constraining the business to live within its means.
Sounds simple, but for people that don't want to read the book, maybe you don't feel confident going it alone, that's where Rocky can come in and help be that guide to help you through the process. So a little bit of a transition here, Rocky. This is a podcast about entrepreneurship, but one of the biggest hurdles that we all face at one time or another, whether we're in business or just in life in general, is living a balanced life, doing the things that bring us joy, spending the time with the people we care about most, having that freedom that we all are looking for. I always ask people, what does that look like for you? What does that look like for Rocky?
There's no such thing as balance. Okay. People get this concept all wrong. Not everything can be equally weighted. And that's what balance is, right? We talk about the harmony of life. And what I mean by that is, if you listen to a song, in different parts of the song, different things come to the forefront, right? So there might be a drum solo, or maybe the piano is now the forefront. Maybe it's the vocals, right? The drummer never stops drumming. The piano's always going on. The vocals come and go. Your life and your business are the same way. You got kids, you've got a spouse, you've got vacation, and then you've got your business. And maybe your business has busy seasons and slow seasons. So how are you putting that all together so that the music you play in your life is something you want to listen to. Because, if the drummer and the piano guy are trying to fight while the singer's trying to sing, you're not listening to that music. The same thing happens with you. You've got to figure out how to put the pieces together and understand there's a business sprint, and then there's a family sprint, and then there's a this sprint, and maybe there's some other sprint. And you just got to weave them together and figure out for you what's that look like? What's your song? Which means you have to define your life plan. And then you have to define a business plan that serves your life plan, meaning your business serves you. You are not supposed to be a slave to your business. And that's what most people are. They're slaves to their business and they don't make enough. And they're working all the time. They give up all their health. Their spouse leaves them, takes half their money, half the business. She off to have a wonderful life, and here you are, in bad health. And now you're spending all your money trying to get healthy again. So that's my advice.
It's great advice. It's what season are you in, and really putting pen to paper, and what does that happiness look like at the end of the day? What does that ideal life that you're pushing for look like? And there's going to be moments where, maybe the money is the focus and you got to grind, but you got to keep everything else in check as well. Your health, your family, your happiness, your friendships, whatever the things are that fill you up. Money by itself won't make you happy without all of the rest of the pieces. So you got to tend those gardens. And I agree. Balance, nothing's in perfect balance. There's going to be seasons of being way over here and way over there. And it's finding out what makes the most sense based on what your goals are at that point in time and what you're moving for. So love it, Rocky. And with that, I always wrap things up with a little bit of a pick your own, choose your own adventure question. So you can choose which one you'd like to answer, or both if you so desire. But first one being, what is just a recent place you've traveled to in the past 5 years? Or it could be any time. A favorite trip you've gone on, or second, just like a recent adventure in your own backyard, your own neighborhood, wherever you live. And in either case, what was it like? What made it so memorable? Who were you with? Maybe a favorite meal or drink you had, a lesson learned. Give us a story.
So my kids are now out of college. They've launched into life. They're not home. They're still relatively young. Um, we were just in St. Thomas, right?
Awesome.
My wife wanted to go because she had a meeting. I'm like, let's all go to St. Thomas. And so I stroke a check. I'm like, to my daughter, to her husband, to my son. He wanted to bring a buddy. I'm like, yeah, all of you come, find an Airbnb. Let's go hang out on the beach. Let's go have fun. Let's be together as a family. And we do that all the time. And I don't mind paying for that because I want my kids to, they're still young, to pay for that kind of an adventure on their own is it's a struggle. I mean, let's face it, they're trying to get themselves established. And so that's just one thing that we kind of do as a family. Now, as a neighborhood, we do another thing. In our neighborhood, we have something that I started a long, long time ago called Meat Fest. And usually when we have a 3-day weekend, the neighbors come together. A couple of our neighbors love to cook. They love to grill and all that stuff. And so we'll grill, drink, and party all weekend long. Kids, adults. When the kids were young, they'd sleep out in the backyard in tents. And we'd show movies and we just enjoy life.
Oh, I love that. I want that in my neighborhood. I need to create this.
You got to create it. You
Sounds
can't, like,
awesome.
literally, you got to create it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, the St. Thomas trip also sounds amazing. My parents were the same way with their money when I was younger and couldn't afford to go on those types of trips. They would definitely flip the bill. And for them, that was living their rich life. They worked hard to be able to create those kinds of experiences for us kids and share those moments together, even as we were growing older. So I love that you get to do that with your family as well. It's quite the gift.
It is.
All right, Rocky. Any ask, challenge, parting advice, words of wisdom, any call to action you'd like to make to people listening?
Yeah, just do it. Like literally go write your plans, set up your accounts, do the work. Oh, and then one other little favor. If you all could do this, if you're still listening, you must have liked TJ, right? So did you hit the like button yet? I mean, it's somewhere there on your device to give him a little love. I mean, you didn't even pay for this interview, did they? No, they didn't, right? So that would be a nice way to say thank you. And if you know someone else who might benefit, why don't you go ahead and share it with them as well?
I appreciate that, Rocky. It definitely is. It helps out a lot for all you listening. Go tap that review button, like it, share it. There's so much value in here. So, Rocky, I appreciate you jumping on, sharing your wisdom with us. Where can people connect with you, support you online or anywhere?
So we've got two podcasts. The first one is called Profit Answer Man. All we do is show you how to have a more profitable and growing company. That's all it's about. And then we have another podcast called Richer Soul. And on there, we show you how to live the ultimate life, how to find purpose, how to have the right mindsets, and then how to bring harmony to your health, wealth, time, relationships, and your spirituality. And we show you how other people weave it all together and make it happen.
Sounds like what we all need. So I'm going to be tuning in, looking forward to it. And we're going to put links to everything in the show notes. So it's easy for all of you listening to go check this stuff out as well. So Rocky, thank you again. Appreciate your time and look forward to continuing to follow your journey.
Thank you for having me.
To all of our Adventurous listeners, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please be sure to subscribe, download, and share this on social media or with someone you know will get some value from it. Leaving a review goes a long way in helping people find the show, and I personally appreciate reading them when they come in. So please go drop one if you have the time. We'll see you all next week, and remember, whether we're talking about business or the things that bring us joy outside of work, life is meant for exploring. So go out there and live it one adventure at a time.